Whenever you're watching your favorite YouTube golfers like Grant Horvat, Bryson DeChambeau, Kwon, Bryan Bros, Bob Does Sports, all these guys are using these amazing tracers. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it without Adobe After Effects. What we're going to use is Apple Motion. So let's jump straight into it. So once you go into Apple Motion, first thing you're going to do is click Import as a project. And you're going to then select whatever video file it is that you want to do the tracer on. Once you've got that open, you can then play through using the spacebar on your keyboard to find the exact moment of impact. So whenever the ball is getting hit by the club, that's the first point that we actually want to get onto here. So we're going to flick through, use the arrow keys on your keyboard to go through it frame by frame, and you can stop at that exact moment where the ball is getting struck by the club. You're then going to click on the pen tool down here and change this to B spline. And what that's going to do is give it a nice curve rather than those rigid points. And effectively, we're going to flick through this really exactly for the first few frames here. You're going to click on the center of the ball, and that's going to select a point. Use your arrow key to then flick through to the next point of the ball. Again, select the middle of the ball. And then at this point, we're just going to repeat this process and go through it frame by frame by frame until we've got like a nice outline of that first trajectory of the ball. Once you get a few frames in, you've got the first bit of the trajectory sorted, you can then skip a couple frames at a time. However, something to keep in mind is as the ball gets further away, it's going to be harder to see, obviously, depending on the resolution of your camera and what you've been filming it in. If you can, and you know where the ball has landed, it's going to make things a hell of a lot easier as to do the true trajectory of the flight. So I filmed this shot myself, so I know that the ball landed somewhere down past this tree here, and it was a bit of a high draw. We can tell that from the start of the trajectory anyway. So what we're going to do is flick through here, and we can actually add an additional point just to make that curve follow the true shape of the trajectory a little bit better. Okay, so once we've got that, we're going to hit enter, and that's going to actually create a shape for us. And we can go ahead and turn off the fill section here. We don't need to see the inside of the fill because all we're interested in is drawing that trajectory. So once we've done that, we can then come over to our outline section, and we can start changing colors here. And this is where it gets fun. So you can choose whatever color you want. The traditional YouTube route is obviously nice, like red line, but I like to get a bit creative with it and use different colors. So you have a whole bunch of different options to choose from here. It doesn't really matter which one you want to go with, so pick whatever one you fancy. Then the next thing you're going to want to do is go to the stroke section and select color over stroke. And what that's going to do, it's going to overlay that color that you want onto your trajectory. However, it looks a bit funny right now because whenever we flick through and it hits the ball, the trajectory just immediately pops onto the screen because all we've done is draw that shape. So what we're going to want to do now is go back to our B-spline. We're going to want to go to style, and there's an option down here called first point offset and last point offset. First thing we're going to want to do is go to the last point offset and turn this the whole way down to 0%. We're going to add a keyframe right at the start of our B-spline. So the point that that ball was getting hit, the initial trajectory, is where we've got that keyframed at 0. Once we've done that, we then start going through the same process and flicking through frame by frame, at least for the first few frames, because those are the most important where you can still actually see the ball. We're going to adjust that last point offset percentage to follow the ball exactly, and you can be very precise with this for the first few frames, especially while you can clearly still see the ball in frame. That's how you get that real professional looking trajectory. It's a little bit of a tedious process. However, the results are worth it, in my opinion, at the end because it gives you a real good track of the ball. At this point, we just repeat this process until we get right the way up to where we lose track of the ball, and we lose track of the ball somewhere at the top of the arc here. Beyond that, you can use your own judgment to kind of estimate how much further the ball traveled and then just bring that last point offset to 100% to finish off the shot. And there we go. We've got our cool looking tracer at this point. Something that we can do now to make this look a little bit cooler is go to the first point offset, so the option that's just above last point offset, and we can actually make that tracer flow through with the shot. We repeat the same process, and we keyframe our first point offset to be 0% and then go to 100% slightly after the shot has finished, and it will give that real nice looking trajectory of the ball flight. Beyond that, we can do some additional things. Another cool tip that I like to do is actually changing the width over time of that trajectory. So if we click on the left hand side of this, what we can do is make that be in and around 200, anywhere between 160 to 250% looks good, depending on how far away you've hit your shot. And on the right-hand side, we want to bring that down to about, I like somewhere between 20% and 30%. It's a good number for me here. What that does is that actually narrows the trajectory the further away the ball gets. Makes it look a little bit more professional. It shows that distance over time of the ball being hit further away. Again, feel free to play around with the colors of your trajectory here to whatever suits your style and preference. Another thing I like to do is go to the geometry section and up the roundness of this just to add a little bit more of a curvature to that arc. And then one final thing that I actually like to do is go to our property section again, and what we can do with that trajectory is just turn the opacity down on it a little bit, and you can adjust this to suit whatever your needs are, but it just makes that trajectory have a bit more of a nice touch to it. Or for example, if you had a shot where you wanted it to fade out a little bit quicker and you're zooming in, I would turn that opacity down as the shot goes on so that you can clearly see through the shot. Next step again is just to export this out and add it into whatever video that is you might be editing. Obviously, if you're making one of those long style YouTube videos, you're going to have quite a lot of these to do. However, the process gets quicker and quicker the more you do them. So what I recommend doing is actually do all your tracers in one batch. And once you've got all your tracers done, you can import that into whatever editing software that you want to use. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you found that helpful. If you did, be sure to give me a like and make sure you subscribe to this channel, and I will be putting out more tutorials like this in the future.